Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for our RefWorks Medical Library User Group. We have a lot to get through today, and before I hand this off to our panelists, I just have a few housekeeping things to go over. One, as you entered WebEx, excuse me, just one moment. As you entered WebEx, your lines were muted as per usual. And so if you have questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat or the Q&A functionality found in your WebEx application. We are recording this session, so and we'll be posting it in the next week or so. What I want to do next is just have you meet our panelists. We're so excited to have 5 panelists with us today, 2 from TMZ with Kelsey Coyne and Emma Silva, and 2 from St. Luke's, Sarah Laurie and Lindsay Zamara, and from BC Cancer, Krista Clement. During the presentation, we're going to introduce each panelist separately, and each speaker and groups of speakers will share their thoughts for about 8 to 10 minutes on a set of topics that we've agreed upon. And after all panelists have presented, we will answer questions that have come up. So please, again, use the chat and the Q&A functionality, and we will take those questions as they come in. Just to give you an idea of some of what will be covered, we've asked them to look at the roles and challenges about how RefWorks is used at their institution, what the challenges are on a day-to-day basis, and how RefWorks features really work well, particularly in a medical institution. Under engagement and communications, we really wanted to focus about how they communicate RefWorks to their researchers, to the faculty, and also if there's any particular challenges with that. So before I hand this over to the first set of panelists, I want to introduce them properly. The first first set of panelists are from TMZ Library. And the first one is Kelsey Coyne. She is a research and instructional library liaison at TMZ, covering several institutions, as you can see here. Her role in the library is to help users locate resources and assist with services such as literary searches, one-on-one consultations, systematic review, and with library classes. She assists her users on how to search databases, and she enjoys working with her students and faculty and colleagues in this joint effort into conducting research. With her is Emma Silva, who was a liaison librarian at TMZ as well, and she's been working in the library business for over 8 years. And really enjoys working in the academic library setting, and has been with the Health Sciences Library in 2015. She works with her users to help locate the appropriate resources to fulfill their informational needs. And she's really involved with the Medical Library Association, MLA, and the South Central chapter of MLA. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand this over to, let's see, Kelsey, I think I'm handing it to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here I go. And you should have the ball now.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
So I will actually be starting this off, but Kelsey will be driving the slides for me. So just again, briefly introduce myself. My name is Emma Silva, and today I am joined by my colleague Kelsey Coyne. and we're going to go ahead and tell you how we use RefWorks at the TMC library. Next slide, please. So before I go too far into this process, I do want to give you some background knowledge about the TMC library. So the TMC library is very unique in the fact that it is a standalone private not-for-profit organization. It is located in Houston, Texas, in one of the largest concentrations of, that contains the largest concentrations of medical professionals and experts in the field. So if you have ever or get the opportunity to come to the Texas Medical Center Library, you'll be able to see right off the bat that it is full of medical professionals. And then, of course, with that being said, Kelsey, next slide, please. Just a quick overview. I know Ella kind of already mentioned this, but I did go ahead and graduate from the University of North Texas, so go Mean Green, with a Master's of Library Science. I did go ahead and focus particularly on medical informatics. And then, like Ella did mention, I have been in libraries for quite a while now, so I have had the opportunity to work in different departments in both academic and medical libraries. And then just, some, some hobbies there. So when, of course, I'm not, working on planning to teach a class on RefWorks or working on a LibGuide for RefWorks, I do enjoy gardening, volunteering, and reading. Next slide, please. And then, of course, so how do I market RefWorks in both, a medical school as well as a biomedical informatics school? So I did list two things here. Obviously, there is a lot more ways that I use it, but I found that these are the two things that overlap amongst these particular institutions here. So first thing, major research projects, and that for us is something like systematic reviews. That is something that is constantly, being done in the medical center. And in terms of RefWorks, not only, faculty or medical professionals work on these systematic reviews, you also have students that work alongside them. So it's very important for them to have the citation manager in terms of them, being able to better have their research projects. And then, of course, tying into that is citation management, because, of course, when you are working on your research, you must make sure that you are citing your things properly. So that's, again, where we redirect to RefWorks and its tool that allows the users to do in-text citations along with the bibliography list. And then just a couple of ways that I do market RefWorks. So depending on the institution, of course, but for the most part, we do like to go ahead and post nice announcements on their bulletin boards or on their media channels. That way, students, faculty, and staff can see them all around the campus. We do also have LibGuides that we do create specifically for these institutions, where we list information also about RefWorks and how it would help them throughout, their education at these institutions. And then, of course, we do have office hours as well. We used to do those in person, but with the pandemic, those have gone virtual. But that still does allow us to go ahead and meet one-on-one with, students, staff, faculty, and have the opportunity to share RefWorks with them then. And then, of course, we have orientations and core courses. So depending on the course, usually faculty will invite us to come and speak to those classes, where we'll then have the opportunity to present RefWorks and, its greatest strengths for its users. And then, of course, the orientations is usually where we are able to, get everyone all at once. So those are just a couple of the ways that I do go ahead and market it. There's definitely more ways, but those are the main ones. Next slide, please. And then, of course, some of the essential features for my particular institutions are going to be deduplication, projects, the sharing feature, and, of course, the most loved, which is the add-in, the RCM. So then, of course, for deduplication, that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the major research projects. When you are working on them, you will be searching, of course, more than one database, so you will have overlap. That is, again, where the deduplication function in RefWorks comes to play. So you can kind of see how that ties back and why that's important to our institutions. And then, of course, the project. So this feature is very popular with our students since they are able to go ahead and work together and add at the same time those citations and edit and do all those things together. So they really find that helpful. And then, of course, there is the sharing feature there. So with that, it is different from the projects, of course, but that does allow you to at least be able to share, that citation list with, even if you're working with a colleague outside of your institution, or even if they don't have RefWorks, you're still able to share that list with them. So that's why that's also one of our most popular features for my institution. And then, of course, the most loved, which is the add-in, which again ties back to, those research projects. This does help them save time and allows them to be able to incorporate that in-text citation and the bibliography list without having to manually do that by ourselves, or without having to use, a citation machine that may be available on the web. So this will do it for you. Next slide, please. So this is where I will go ahead and hand it off to Kelsey Coim again.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Coim, and I said I would be driving this today, but I didn't say I would be good at it. So I got my master's in library science with a focus in archival studies and digital imaging technology from the University of North Texas. I cut my teeth at the McGovern Historical Center, which is actually the archive for the Texas Medical Center Library. So I've been with them for a while doing my apprenticeship, internship, practicum, and fellowship all at that archive. And most of my projects focused on information organization and metadata management. So those skills that I had there really paved the way for the job that I have now as a liaison librarian to UT Health School of Public Health and TSU College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. We mentioned at the very beginning some of the things that we do at the library, and I just wanted to give a little bit of information here about what we do in terms of services. And I do literature searches for faculty and staff. We do systematic reviews, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. For our students, we provide consultation services, and two of the most popular consultations that I do are the literature searching consultations and the RefWorks consultations. And I'm going to talk about the relationship between those two consultations that I have in the next slide. Briefly, just as a fun thing, I love yoga. I like yoga, according to the slide. And I believe I'm a yogi. I have two cats. Their names are Chopsticks and Spoons, and they are my purr babies. I love them. And of course, I love books, my favorite being Catch 22. So how I use and market RefWorks in public health. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of how I use RefWorks is obviously teaching. Like I mentioned in the last slide, I have two popular consultation services, and there are other things we can talk about in terms of consultations with those one-on-one sessions with students, but two of the most popular types are the literature searching and the introduction to RefWorks. Those two consultation types are so symbiotic that I have students typically schedule the literature searching consultation and then immediately schedule the RefWorks consultation following up. So whenever I am teaching RefWorks, I'm not just teaching how to use RefWorks, I actually teach from RefWorks, because there's a lot about bibliographic information that plays a huge role in how you search. So there is that symbiotic relationship, and not only do I, like I said, teach from RefWorks, but I teach from RefWorks. So now I love the easy sharing feature, because for my faculty and staff who request literature searches, some of them don't use citation managers like RefWorks or EndNote, and they will request their results in like a Microsoft Word document. and I give them the option to send them a link, the open URL link from RefWorks that you have. For those who don't have RefWorks accounts, there is that sharing capability with that open URL link, and they really like that they are able to click on the different titles and see all the bibliographic information of their results. And then they also have the option, I think as of right now, there's like 5 or 6 citation styles that they can choose from with the open URL link. And I do want to clarify that there are over 6,000 citation styles that you can use whenever you do share with someone who has a RefWorks account, but I was talking about the open URL link. So how I market RefWorks is I have 2 classes in a year that I give on Introduction to RefWorks, one in the fall and one in the spring. And one of the things I say in that class is that RefWorks saves you hours in the research process. And the reason I can say that is from personal experience. I, in my undergrad, was doing my reference pages from top down all by myself, and I would have the APA handbook out, and it would take me all day to do my reference page. And after I learned about RefWorks and started using it in my undergrad, it saved me so much time. And so that's the type of information that I share with students, because they really like that idea of being able to save time and being more efficient. One of the other things that I stress in those classes is that RefWorks can be used as a group project tool for research collaboration. With all the sharing capabilities from the top down, being able to share projects, being able to share folders, subfolders, and then even having the open URL link in case someone doesn't have a citation manager system, just leads to better research collaboration. And I give suggestions on how to use those sharing features for group projects. Now, the places that I have information about RefWorks are in our SPH Library Canvas course. We have a LibGuide embedded in that course on RefWorks that I created, as well as a link to the ProQuest RefWorks LibGuide that they have, and my latest recording. So every time I do a latest recording of the RefWorks class, that's the module that I put it in. And then in our announcements and emails, we remind faculty, staff, GAs that, hey, the library's here. If you want to request a class for your course on citation management, we have RefWorks, we can teach it. Your students also can request one-on-one consultations, and that seems to be pretty well received. So what we wanted to end on today was the conversations that Emma and I have had with the RefWorks development team on potential deduplication enhancements. And the reason why these potential enhancements are so exciting to us is because of our systematic review service. And I kind of call that the Cadillac of our service, but I would like to think all of our services are Cadillacs. But for those systematic review services, we, as the librarian, when a researcher requests that, we do so much in terms of creating the search, testing the search, translating, and then deduplication. We fill a portion of the Prisma diagram, and we also provide stats as well as write a portion of the methodology. And we have a policy at the library for us to be co-authors on those papers because of all that work. And so deduplication is such a huge part of what we do. Having the necessary tools are important. So deduplication is integral to TMC library services. And we are really excited about the open conversations we've been having with RefWorks, because we believe that whenever vendors speak with their users, that this fosters better resources for researchers. So we're really excited about those potential enhancements, and we're also really excited when we get to tell people that RefWorks saves them time, is efficient, and can lead to better group collaboration. So thank you so much. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Emma and Kelsey. We did get one shout out saying, "Go Mean Green." So someone, you have some alma maters on the line, and they just wanted to give you a nice shout out for that.
Thank you so much. Go Mean Green.
So let me move along. So our next two presenters come to us from St. Luke's, located in Idaho. We have Sarah Laurie, who's the medical library manager there, and we have Lindsay Zamara, who is the medical librarian, and she specializes in outreach and marketing to healthcare staff and providers. So let me pass the ball on to let's see. Lindsay, are you driving or is Sarah?
I'm driving. This is Sarah.
Okay, so let me go down, try to find you. Okay, Sarah, it should have passed you the ball.
Okay, I have it.
Awesome.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see your screen, yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to present, and also to everyone who joined the call today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about us here in Idaho. My name is Sarah Laurie, and I'm the medical library manager at St. Luke's Health System. I'm joined today by Lindsay, who's a medical librarian on our team and also coordinates our outreach, communication, and education efforts, in addition to everything else that we do here. St. Luke's is a non-academic health system with 8 medical libraries, or medical centers, sorry, I wish we had 8 medical libraries. Roughly 340 clinics across the state and 16,000 providers and employees. The library team has 5 team members. We have 2 physical libraries, but we serve the full health system through our online collections and services, as well as courier services. We implemented RefWorks about 4 years ago to address some challenges that we were having within the library team, as well as issues in the health system with other teams trying to figure out how best to track and share citations. First, we were all using different platforms, either individual subscriptions or open access tools, and with our cybersecurity precautions, we often had trouble accessing them or accessing all the features on our network. Second, like probably everybody on this call, we send search results to our clinicians who work at all hours on a wide variety of schedules. In the past, we didn't have a way to link people directly from our search results to the full text for the articles, other than manually inserting the links, which was resource intensive and error prone. And third, we were receiving search requests on the same topic from different members of the same teams every few months, or requests later to share results with additional people. In talking directly with some of our research teams, we also discovered that there were many inefficiencies in our workflows for both teams. We were exporting results to and include in an email, and then they were having to manually update the citations in their citation management tool. So first, now when a patron submits a search request, they can choose whether they want a RefWorks file, an email with the results, or both. For those requesting an email with the results, we use a process that Cindy Schmidt at the University of Nebraska Medical Center developed, and I'm sharing with permission a link to her LibGuide detailing the process here. Basically, using a custom citation style, you generate a bibliography in RefWorks, paste it into Word, run a few macros, and from there you have a bibliography with link resolver links that take you directly to the full text or to a form where they can request an ILL. It sounds like Kelsey maybe has a different approach here, so I'm interested to learn more from her. I included an example here of what a citation looks like. I believe Cindy has made some improvements, and there are ways to customize the citation style further. But at this stage, it works and has reduced the number of article requests that are from journals that we subscribe to, which we see as an improvement because it's getting evidence to our clinicians more quickly. In terms of sharing results, we are using RefWorks to coordinate evidence retrieval and citation management with some of our healthcare teams. Depending on the department or team, this can take different forms, but I'm sharing two examples here. First, with our research teams, we create individual projects around their focus areas or trials. As we do regular updates of the literature for them, we load those results directly into a folder in their RefWorks project. And we typically recommend a few folders to organize the materials where we can load the results that have not yet been reviewed by the team, and we often include the data, the search with that. We include a folder that's no or not relevant so that they have a place to move the citations that aren't a match for them. It also gives us helpful information to know for future searches what was relevant and what wasn't. And I tend to add a folder named something like tangents or of possible interest, where I can add articles that I know aren't a direct match to the current search, but I think they may be of interest to the overarching project down the line, or that I anticipate I'll be asked for at some point in the future by the team. Another example would be departments that have teams investigating policies and protocols, where we often don't know who all is involved beyond the search requester. With their permission, with the department's permission, we create a single departmental project and then create folders for their topics or work areas. Each member of the department is then an owner of the project and has visibility into the citations. This means that as people start into a project, they can immediately find the references that have been shared, and teams can also add the citations they find so that we're all working from the same list. So that's a really quick overview of how we're using RefWorks here at St. Luke's. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lindsay, who can describe our outreach and promotion of RefWorks here at St. Luke's.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Can you all hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. So perhaps I should start out by saying I did my graduate degree at University of Arizona, so go Wildcats if there are any Wildcats out there. So yes, hi again, everyone. My name's Lindsay Zamara, and I work on Sarah's team here in the Boise location of the St. Luke's Library. And Sarah was kind enough to share kind of the nuts and bolts of how we're using RefWorks at a more specific level. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit higher level, generally, the promotion and communication techniques that we use to talk about the tool and spread the word throughout the health system. And that's really the best place to start is, as Sarah mentioned, you know, our user group or our group of colleagues here at St. Luke's is 16,000 strong and very geographically diverse. Our locations span the entire southern portion of our state, so we have a huge area to cover to tell folks about RefWorks. So we do that in a few different ways, through embedding information in our channels, which we'll talk about here in a second. As Sarah mentioned, we have several stakeholder groups that we kind of target to become super users, and then also through planned campaigns. So first, in terms of embedded options, the thing that we focus on most with our promotions and with sharing information about RefWorks and our other tools is making them as accessible as possible by being as asynchronous as possible. Again, because we have such a large group that we're working to touch with such a small team, we're only 5 here in the library. So we try and make the opportunities to learn about RefWorks and to use the tool as easy as possible and as frequently encountered as possible at all the different online touch points that our users are using or coming in contact with. The one in particular that's been kind of the most interesting and most fun for us, and I think the most useful for our stakeholder group, is we have an opportunity for folks to decide or interact with RefWorks when they turn in a search request to us, which is through an online form. This is really handy for those that are already familiar with the tool or who have used a citation manager recently, but it's also a great way to prompt those folks who aren't so familiar with citation managers or who have never used RefWorks to see that in the request form and think, oh, what is that? Can I get some more information? So we've started several really good conversations about the tool in that way. I'm not going to touch too much on the stakeholder group because Sarah covered that pretty well, but I will say that these are groups that are education cohorts, different work groups, different departments or units that we have targeted to kind of grow as our super users in the hopes that they will then become champions for the product and kind of spread the word throughout the system on their own through their own networks. And then finally, planned campaigns. This is kind of a new area for us. We're still sort of working out the best ways to get in contact with our users throughout the system. But we have been experimenting, or we like to say running pilots here, with different types of marketing channels. And one of those has been using email signatures to share information about RefWorks. So we create a little image with the logo and some information about what the tool is and why it's useful for folks that links either to the tool, depending on the campaign, or to information about it in a guide that we have built. And that's been a really fun way to kind of include a little bit of promotion for RefWorks in our conversations that are maybe outside of searching or outside of finding information or literature for evidence-based work here in the health system. And then Sarah, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So my timer's telling me I'm out of time, so I'm going to go really quickly over this final slide, which is challenges and tips. And really for us, the main challenge has just been the geographic diversity and really the schedule diversity of our user group. We have, again, such a gigantic group of users who have a wide variety of skill and comfort level with technology in general and citation management tools in particular, and they're all working at different times throughout the day. So for us, the main challenge in kind of spreading the word about RefWorks has been how to do it in an asynchronous way that is still meaningful and useful to as wide a variety of people as you can imagine. And this is the tip portion. For us, really, the way to do that has been all about embracing flexibility. So what works for one group may not work for another. I know that sounds kind of obvious, but sometimes as librarians, we kind of get in our bubbles and in our blinders about how we're going to talk about certain tools, and being willing to kind of break out of that and describe RefWorks in a different way, or think about the different benefits that could be connected to different types of users or different groups has really been a great way for us to kind of connect the tool in a meaningful way with many different types of people. So I'm going to end there. Thank you so much to everyone for having us. It's been really great sharing information with you and learning from the other presenters. So we'll turn it over to the next group.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Lindsay and Sarah. That is a very interesting approach, and getting some questions about that, which we will, go to the end with. And if there's, as she said, if there's any Wildcat fans out there, please give her a shout out. Let me just introduce our last speaker. Let's see. Let's get this up. We're so pleased to have with us today from BC Cancer, Krista Clement, who completed her master's in library and information studies at the University of British Columbia, with actually no plans at the time to go into a medical library to become one. Now she's been a reference librarian at BC Cancer for over 20 years and finds the work consistently interesting and challenging. She's based out of Kelowna, British Columbia, and is part of the library team serving a large cancer agency, from clinical support through research and including consumer health. And with that, let me hand this over to Krista and she can get started.
Hello, hello, everybody.
And Krista, you should have the ball now.
Sure, that's great. Okay, I'm really appreciative that Lindsay covered a lot of things from the sort of non-academic viewpoint, because I am in complete agreement with her points. And you may notice that I'm picking up on some of the same themes. And so we were asked to tell our story. So my slides are a lot about a story. I'm part of the library team at BC Cancer, which is based in British Columbia, Canada. And I'm just going to make sure my slides progress here. We're also in a non-academic medical ecosystem, and I'm hoping there's some people in the group who also are in a non-academic library, and you might recognize some of your issues here. So what makes our ecosystem a little bit different? We don't have students or faculty. We aren't a school. Our users have patient care as their primary focus. We really try to be patient-centered. And I want you to know where I'm speaking to you from right now. Behind the monitor is the radiation therapy hallway. And so patients are actually crossing in front of me as I'm giving this presentation. And just above my head, patients are receiving chemotherapy. So we're really embedded in the clinical environment. We are supporting staff who are doing research, and that results in published journal articles. They are also creating evidence-based cancer care documents, drug monographs, practice guidelines. In our ecosystem, yes, we have doctors, nurses, pharmacists, many healthcare professionals, also a lot of temporary staff, residents, fellows, students from a wide variety of backgrounds, and research assistants. And one of the things those who are working in a clinical environment know is that concerns about patient confidentiality, the security of clinical records means that our computer system is very tightly handled, and it's very rigid. We also have clinical applications which are not supported by the current Microsoft Windows operating system. Current browsers are often not supported. And so our entire network is often several updates behind where the rest of the world is. And all of those things present challenges for citation management and for the library. This is a map to give you an idea of British Columbia. All of the little dots on the map are places in our province here in Canada which have cancer clinics, cancer treatment centers. All of them have staff who are provided library services by our team and have access to library services such as RefWorks. The area of British Columbia is the size of all of Great Britain. Vancouver Island in the blue at the bottom is larger than the island of Hawaii or the island of Taiwan. And yet we have a small population. So much of this is very rural. They have limited technology access and technology support because our population is spread over this enormous area. Some of our challenges in citation management then are directly related to our ecosystem. So as I said, we're not an academic campus, so we don't have an academic year. There aren't any assignments, no major projects. There's no classes I can go to present RefWorks. Our staff have patient care in their primary focus, and they give training a really low priority. They're wearing a pager, and if a patient has a problem, they're going to go to the patient. They don't like change. If something is working for them, they would like it to keep working for them. Every center, and I really appreciated St. Luke's pointing out that every discipline has their own culture. And if we try to just tell them the way they have to do it, it won't necessarily work for their team. So we really have to adapt constantly. Whoops, just going to go up. They are still publishing high-end journal articles on the basis of their cancer research. We have geneticists, we have personalized cancer care, we have CAR-T adaptive therapy going on. And so they really need that high-quality output. And a busy medical professional does not want their journal article returned by the editor to fix the bibliography. They need it to be right the first time. And so when we've looked at other solutions, one of the problems with some of the free things that are out there online is you can't always depend on the output being precise and accurate. They are also creating these evidence-based documents. And these documents are not like an essay. If you do an essay for a class, you write the essay and then it's gone. If you're writing a journal article, the article is published and then it's gone. But our drug monographs last for years. And so there's the importance of maintaining continuity across different iterations, long-term management of these documents. And that's a challenge for citation management because programs change. Microsoft Word changes. And so the team changes and the document owner changes. And so these things have to be maintained for a long, long time. All that temporary staff, we have staff who join us possibly from 2 weeks to 2 years, and they are joining a team, and that team would like them to be onboarded very quickly. We quite often have research assistants who come to us from grant funding, and they're here for 6 weeks. And their team would like them to be up to speed with citation management in the first week. So for the rest of the 5 weeks, they can be doing literature searches, critical appraisals, producing posters, producing journal articles. So I have 1 week to get them up to speed, and they might join us at any time in the calendar year. They don't all join us at the same time. It really depends on when the grant funding comes through. So there's a very high on-demand, asynchronous, rapid-fire onboarding of new people. We can't install our own updates. We do not have the ability to update software on our computers. And so this creates a problem for many citation managers that require a download and an install, because that means we have to submit forms to our tech department, IMITS, to get those installed. So one of the great things about RefWorks is being able to update as we go. I'm going to just tell you a few stories. So sit back, relax. I'll tell you what it's like for us here at BC Cancer. So one of the things that we've done with RefWorks is we've created a single database to report on all of the peer-reviewed publications that are produced by any staff in our province each year. And so that can be as many as 700 peer-reviewed publications in a single year. And we're able to create a database where people can go in and see what our organization has published each year, which is really cool. I just did a quick look yesterday, and there's a researcher who actually works right here in my building. And if you do an analysis in Medline on the topic of prostate brachytherapy, she is the 5th highest published author in the world in Medline on this topic. And her RefWorks database is probably the single most comprehensive database on prostate brachytherapy literature in the world. So that is a highly valuable commodity. We don't want to risk that on a platform where the database could become corrupted, where she could lose many, many years of accumulating this very in-depth database on this literature. It's a valuable property. And so it really matters that her citation management platform can be stable and endure and not put that at risk. We have these drug monographs. I don't really have time to show you one, but they're available on the web. And so countries all over the world are able to plan their cancer drug treatment protocols, look up monographs about the drug specifics from our website. But those monographs were first written way back. If you've ever heard of Legacy RefWorks, these were created before Legacy RefWorks in the original RefWorks using a plugin for Word called Write and Cite 2, which inserted text codes. So these monographs have a very long, deep history and have been updated over 20 years. And you can just imagine a 20-year-old Word document with all of the various codes and things embedded in that. And how many times we've had to work them through upgrading and changing their documents. One of the things that comes up in a clinical environment for sure is that the staff who need accreditation need to submit their CVs to maintain that accreditation in a very specific customized style. It's great that RefWorks allows us to create those very customized styles for the purposes they need. However, they don't necessarily want to update their own CV. They would like their medical secretary to update their CV. The medical secretary may not know how to use RefWorks, so then they would like the library to update the CV, but the library will not update the doctor's CVs. So quite often we have a little discussion about who is going to do some of the work, and that creates a challenge. It's really great that in RefWorks, the secretary can share that physician's account. We can give them training. It's something that's very seamless, where they don't have to have specific privileges. Obviously, as mentioned, we've got people who have collaborative research projects across several universities, some using RefWorks, some using other citation management. It's always a bit of a challenge to get everyone on the same page. I talked about the student assistants and the research contracts who come in. It's great. The medical students get real skills and they're contributing to patient care. Sometimes when they leave, the team has a document that has been created using the student's personal RefWorks account, and they have no access to edit the document. So RefWorks sharing and projects has been an absolute lifesaver, where a student then can be joined to a project, work on that project, but the account remains owned by the primary investigator in the long term. Finally, we've experienced a huge culture shift. I've been with BC Cancer, as I said, for over 20 years, and it's been a huge culture shift. We used to do 2-hour workshops where we would get the clinical staff into a computer lab. They'd be hands-on and learn how to use RefWorks, learn how to import their citations and attach their articles as PDFs. We don't get to do that anymore. Their pager goes off and they're gone. So now we have pre-recorded online courses so that there can be that asynchronous learning that Lindsay talked about using at St. Luke's. They can go in and learn it when they need to learn it, use LibGuides, use handouts and quick starts. But we also do Zoom calls on demand. I have them share their screen to me and I walk them through the process in real time to troubleshoot and help them learn how to do specific tasks. So my tips for how to manage citation management in a medical and clinical library environment. One thing is you really need to manage change, libraries. You got to have an eye on the rear view mirror and know where those documents are coming from, the long-term plan, and also be looking at what's coming in the future. Is your organization upgrading Windows, upgrading Word, and what's happening with RefWorks so that you can help your users actually negotiate those technical upgrades, the apps, the troubleshooting. It's really on the library to help the users get there because to be honest, I tell this to the users that their business is patient care, not worrying about the semicolons and the underlying, the typing out of a bibliography. Instruction has to be fast. It has to be personalized. It has to be available asynchronously. We can't get them in a classroom. So when a user presents and they have a question, I need to personalize what I'm doing to that user and help them at that moment. One of our strategies has been to provide lit search results to our users as a shared RefWorks folder. So we simply can send them their lit search with a link. Well, it's not even a link. We advise them to go to the RefWorks account, open that account, and their results will be there in the shared area. And then they just select the ones they want to keep and make a copy into their own RefWorks account. If they don't have a RefWorks account, we include in our literature results instructions on making an account to let us know as soon as they've created that account, we can send them their shared folder. So some of the great advantages of RefWorks. In the second column here, one of the big things is this instant sign up. Because as I said, we literally can't install things. And there's many citation managers that cannot truly be used without downloading and installing a program. RefWorks, if they come into my office, I can get them signed up in 2 minutes. They can be using the program in 5 minutes. They do not have to submit a form or get anything installed. And then we don't have to ask IMITS to upgrade the program. The improvements that RefWorks makes are immediately available to all of our staff all over that huge province with its very rural areas. They all get the advantages of those improvements instantly. So that really is a time saver and a solution maker for us in our network environment. It's fabulous that people have unlimited devices. There are citation managers out there where when you're installing your citation manager, you kind of have a ticker running saying now you've installed it on 2 devices and 3, and you kind of have a limit of how many places you can install this program. With RefWorks, people are using it in their office. They're using it over in ambulatory care clinic. They're using it on their laptop. They go to conference. They also might be using it at the hospital next door. If they're teaching at a university, they might actually have an office there. And it's great that they can actually use RefWorks wherever they are. They don't have to worry about downloading it and running into a limit and corrupting their database. Another thing that's fabulous is they don't just have a single project going on that they need to share. They need to be sharing multiple projects with different teams in different places. And RefWorks doesn't limit you in how many projects you can be working on or how many folders can be shared folders. You can share any folder. And that makes a big, big difference for our groups. As I said, projects are great to support those ever-changing teams. And it's really critical to have reliable styles for publishing peer-reviewed articles in journals and customizing things for web publishing. How do we engage our medical staff? We engage our medical staff most strongly, I think, by connecting RefWorks to their clinical goals. We are patient-centered, and so they need to understand that for evidence-based care to really be delivering good patient care, they should not be worrying about their citation styles. I had someone say, don't we all have to be tortured by learning APA? And the thing is, when you're publishing in many different journals, there's many different styles. I don't want the clinical team to be worrying about underlining, semicolons, should this be in italics? That is not their primary focus. They should be moving on to patient care and let RefWorks take care of those details. We integrate RefWorks really directly into our library services. We provide results using RefWorks. We provide the annual publications list using RefWorks. We do all of those things via RefWorks to make it very integral. We onboard everybody very quickly. I think that's very important with medical staff because when they arrive, they're very quickly out in clinic and they may not come back to find out about RefWorks. So if we have new staff present to us, if we can sign them up for RefWorks at that first initial orientation week, then very quickly and make it very easy at the point of use, then they're in. They have that for later. Reassure your staff, you know, they're getting a lot of emails. There's a lot of changes in medical practice. You want to keep it simple and reassure them that they can do this, right? This is something that they can keep a handle on. It's not going to be complicated and they're going to be able to save time using it. It's often a good idea when you're trying to hook them to contrast it to what they might be doing right now, like all those stacks of journal articles in their office, or maybe the PDF files that they've saved, some at home, some on their laptop, some that they've downloaded on their work computer, and they can't find the PDF anymore. They've downloaded it 3 times. If it was in RefWorks, you could search for the author's name and find it, and you would have it anywhere you are. So it's really, really good for them to realize this is going to solve a problem they're having right now. As St. Luke said, it's important to just distribute that expertise, get as many people in a department already knowledgeable about RefWorks so that when they have an issue, they don't necessarily have to come to us. They are supporting each other. And you know, I agree with everything Lindsay said about promoting and marketing. Email signature files mentioning RefWorks are great. Having it on signage in the staff room or doing campaigns. I mean, having targeted campaigns that go out in staff newsletters are all good, but it can be discouraging. So you need to just keep promoting it, keep informing people, keep the marketing process going, because in the end, it is not about us and it's not about them. It's actually all about patient care and getting those cancer patients the best care possible. And in order to facilitate that, we really need to give them the good tools. And so that's our approach to it. And I hope that some of you recognize your environment in what I shared today. And that's all for me.
Thank you so much, Krista. This is great summary and really good information. Very much appreciate it. So at this point, we're going to go to the Q&A portion of our session. And first, I just want to thank the speakers today for sharing their stories and all of their tips and their insights, from their institutions I think everything that we've heard today is so valuable and something that everyone can take away with, looking at their situation and seeing how we can make sure that everyone's getting the great information about RefWorks and how it will make lives a little bit easier to use within the organization. We do have a few questions that have come in, and we do have people monitoring the chat. So I will start with TMC. So a question came in about how long have you had RefWorks? You might have mentioned this already, but how long have you had it to get it into a place with such great teaching of, allowing you to do such great teaching of RefWorks and its integration?
So I can say that we've been using this new version recently. And then before that, the TMC library has been using the legacy version of RefWorks for a long time. That was prior to Kelsey and I being there, so I can't give you an exact time frame. But I will say that Kelsey and I have worked really hard since we did come on board to make sure that RefWorks would be able to work for all the different institutions that we do teach, since each institution is different. A couple of my other colleagues may teach it differently, so it really depends on that particular institution. But the one thing that we do all share in common is having our LibGuide, where that does reflect, how to import from each specific database, along with, how do you sign up, how do you use deduplication, how to use the tags, projects, and so forth. So we do have that all located in there. And then of course, when, if that's not sufficient, they can definitely go ahead and consult with us, and we'll walk them in through the whole process, whether that be, setting them up from the beginning and then walking them through how to use all of the features in RefWorks.
And I think another thing that kind of, the longevity of keeping the momentum going of promotion of RefWorks really is about, and especially working with Emma on RefWorks and promotion and classes and everything, it's about staying up to date with the new releases. So every time the release notes come out, Emma and I, we're always talking about it and talking about it with our department, letting them know, hey, there's these new features, there's been these updates, and so on and so forth. And I also think that our energy, and our excitement can be translated that way. Because when you're talking about bibliographic information, it can get dull, but if you are excited about it, if you share your own experiences, this saves me time, this saves me energy, this is a really useful tool. Just being kept up to date with things helps you with that promotional longevity. And I want to say that I think we've been with RefWorks for at least 10 years, Emma. I think that's what I gathered from speaking with our other colleagues. So thank you for your question.
Great. Yeah, we have a lot of questions coming in. We're going to try to get to most of them, but of course, if we don't get to all the questions, we have recorded them, and we will make sure that the speakers answer them afterwards as well. For St. Luke's, Sarah and Lindsay, so your projects, as you described, how you have a lot of projects and everybody goes to those projects to work on them. It's a two-part question. How many, what's the average number of users on each project?
It really depends on the project and the team, I think. For a research project, it's who is involved in the trial or the studies, and maybe 5 people are owners of the project, and more people are involved in it, but that's kind of who's managing the references. And then Lindsay, I don't know if you know about other departments, there could be up to 15 maybe in other areas. And then typically we add the members of the library team to those projects too, so that we can all work together on them if we need to.
Absolutely, I agree.
Oh, sorry. The second part of that question, and Lindsay, maybe that's you can answer this part, is how do you manage all those project owners to make sure like it runs smoothly, that kind of thing?
You know, I think whoever asked, I might be interested to learn a little bit more about what they're driving at with this question. For us, you know, again, because we have so many users in so many different areas, we really try and be as helpful as possible while being as hands-off as possible. We want them to be, you know, empowered to kind of manage their own content, but know that we're always there to help. I see Krista's agreeing. So, you know, we kind of get them started. We do the tutorials, we walk them through how to use it. And, you know, sometimes we'll load the content for them, but from there, they're really welcome to, you know, make new folders, move resources around however they want, add things, delete things, add new users, and all of that we let them manage as much as they want to. So I hope that answers the question, but please let me know if I've missed anything.
Great, thank you. So Krista, there was a question about understanding data security updates. This person said they are done automatically most of the time, but I think you brought up, you know, on the topic of security updates, are there issues with, you know, are you fine from IT with regarding securities? I think that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I would say that there's sort of two pieces to this. You know, one thing is the fabulous thing about RefWorks is that the database itself, being in the cloud, has never given us any issue with IT security, unlike some previous citation managers that we have used in the past. And so, you know, it's wonderful because RefWorks does security updates and our network does security updates. But as long as we can make a connection in a browser, we are good. So we trust RefWorks. Everything is password protected. The people who are part of our RefWorks license, their content is within our RefWorks license. It is not out in the wild and woolly web. It is, we have good confidence that that's secure. So we can be very reassuring to IMITS that RefWorks is a safe site. And at the same time, when they're doing their security updates, we don't have a problem. Now, I will say that for all citation managers across the board, if you are using any plug-in tool to a word processor, that will be the issue where you are going to have network problems. And it really doesn't matter what citation manager you use. As soon as you have a Word plugin, that is making a data handshake behind the scenes to your data. And so that data handshake it's making through Microsoft Word or another word processor is using some internet connection. For RefWorks, for example, it's using Internet Explorer coding in Word to contact the data. That sometimes will create a handshake issue on IMITS's end with the version of Internet Explorer that IMITS is allowing us to use. So sometimes we've had to say, you need to update Internet Explorer because our users can't actually use the plugin. But that's not a problem with RefWorks, really. And this is a problem for every citation manager you're going to use. It doesn't matter if it's Mendeley or Zotero or EndNote, it doesn't matter. The only thing I discovered recently, and this was like this huge revelation, is that if users can do a document in Google Docs, they can all use the RefWorks plugin in the same project. And so they can all edit, use the same document. And I'm like, oh, but can they use Google Docs at your institution? That's going to be up to your IMI. Yeah, I see a head shaking because IMATS will block things, right? Like we can't use our webmail. So, but RefWorks is great that way. RefWorks itself is great because they can do all of their basic work All of their importing, all of their PDFs, all of that stuff can be done with no security issues.
Great, thank you so much for that answer. For I have a couple questions that will go out to all of you, and you guys can fight over who's going to answer it. But you know, with all of the library materials, support materials that you create, your guides and the short videos and things like that, how much original content do you create on your own versus relying on the ProQuest marketing team to create? And how do you manage that content planning?
I can start because everybody else is quiet. So while you're thinking, I'll say, I'm curious what St. Luke says. We found, because we have no academic thing, that we ended up needing to create a lot of our own content just because there were pieces of the ProQuest materials that didn't apply to our users. And we had very specific needs for educational things. So we actually made Moodle videos for a RefWorks quick start. We recorded a library orientation with RefWorks in it. We created some quick start handouts, but we also provide all of the ProQuest materials as well. So the things that we've made have been very limited. I think it's important to understand where it matters to make your own, and don't make your own if what's available to you will work. Use what exists for sure, but then just target the very specific things that need to be unique. We also, if you're doing a marketing campaign, clearly you're going to write the article for the staff newsletter, you're going to prepare the slide to go on the digital signage, you're going to write your email signature. But I got to say the RefWorks team has been fabulous in working with us to get some medical user promotion content. Thank you for having done that. That's been very helpful.
I think for us, it is a bit of a balance because RefWorks has their own LibGuide and they have their own YouTube tutorials, and those are embedded in our guides as well. And one of the things when it comes to deciding, okay, what content should we make about RefWorks, one of the things we do is we take from our users. How are they using it? What are they using it for? What instructions do they need, especially in a remote setting? So the whole screenshot instructions are incredibly important. Having those screenshots and the arrows pointing of where to click is incredibly useful. Many video tutorials that we sometimes just, if a student has, doesn't have a time for a consultation, we can say, hey, do you want a little mini video tutorial on like how to click this, where to click and how to click? And so it is personalized, and it is a balance because there are so many resources already, but with our own unique users, we can work with them to create that content. It is all user-based.
I will say, to add to Kelsey's, we do have specific directions depending on what databases that are most popular within our users. So then we create those tutorials so that they don't have any problems, exporting. Because although, RefWorks has very clear instructions, sometimes users tend to gravitate, like it's not showing me exactly how I need to do it. So that's why we go ahead and create specific tutorials for them with the screenshots and the arrows. And then of course we do always link back to, any videos or anything that RefWorks does already have. So we'll link it in there as well if they're interested in that. And then we do also try to do like mini lunch bag sessions that just quickly gives you an overview of RefWorks. So that way, if someone's on their lunch break and they have that time, they can go ahead and hop on and listen to us talk about that.
Great. And a follow-up to all of this, if you're willing to share some of your examples and things like that, we'll be happy to send that along with the recording and the follow-up email. It's always good to learn from each other, and as we do as well. There was one last question before we we have some closing remarks, but so one question is about citations. So do you use up-to-date, or do you find you're having to add your own citation styles into RefWorks? And if so, can you describe how you get those citations completed? Your citation styles, I should say. Krista, did you have your hand up? Did I see your hand up? No. Okay.
I personally haven't run into users wanting to create their own citation style, if that's the question, and I'm so sorry if I misunderstood, but I haven't run into that. The one citation style that we did have a lot of users asking about was American Journal of Epidemiology, which if you go to their website, really they use AMA and then have their own formatting instructions. So it's really AMA plus, and someone actually created that for RefWorks. I think it was recently, I say recently, it could have been a couple months ago. It was added. And so the one time that I was asked, oh, hey, I don't see my citation style in the 6,000 options I have, someone created it. So I haven't run into, hey, I need to create my own citation style yet. So I don't have experience on that. But I do know that they are keeping up to date with the different requests of, hey, I need AJE now and things like that. So there are people who are contributing to the different citation styles that are being input into the RefWorks system. So sorry I couldn't give more.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yes, RefWorks adds new styles that they come in. I guess I think you answered the question about if there's a style that you're not finding that you need, how do you address that, and have you had any challenges with that?
We definitely at BC Cancer we have very specific customized styles. Specifically for the drug monographs, also for CVs, for a number of things we've been asked. RefWorks definitely has had the journal styles that we need for publishing. And I know what you mean by the just like this, but with square brackets and, not superscript. It's just like this, but different. Somebody else had asked a question that I see about, capitalization or punctuation, things that they don't like. And fortunately, especially in the new RefWorks, it's pretty straightforward to make a custom style. Some users are comfortable making their own. Others are not. If it's a large enough team or an entire discipline, the library may support that, right? Like if it's going to be for a research publication, we might create the style with them. And then we save that as an institutional style so that all the users in that team can locate the specific style that everybody is being expected to use. But individual users also have the ability to create their own styles. There was a question about importing from the database up to date, and I'm wondering whether any of you do imports from up to date database.
We actually do not have up to date, so I can't comment on that. But I will say if we did have up to date, we definitely have that in the guide because people would want to know specifically how to do it from there.
Great. So so sorry. Go ahead, Lindsay. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say we do have up to date. Sarah posted something in the chat about how we use it. I don't know, Sarah, if you want me to speak a little more to that or if you would prefer to share.
No, I don't really have anything to say. I've never added an up-to-date article in within RefWorks, and it may just be the groups that we're working with. That's not something they want to add in there, but I don't know. Did you have a different take, Lindsay?
Well, I was just going to say it seems that many of our users or the users we have that use up to date have it as more of like a quick kind of point of care question resource rather than something that they refer to if they're doing a deep research project, or if they are, updating a policy or something like that. It seems to be a resource that has kind of a different use case than those that we typically use with our RefWorks customers. I hope I said that okay, and that it answers the question in the Q&A box, but that's kind of our experience with UpToDate and RefWorks.
Great, thank you for that. It looks like those are the only questions right now in the chat and the Q&A, and so we have a few minutes. I just didn't know if there was any closing remarks that you all want to make, or I can make them and we can go on our day. But this has been fantastic. We couldn't be more pleased hearing all of your different stories and solutions, and you're giving so many people on the call ways of thinking about how to work with within their own organizations and how RefWorks really can benefit. So raise your hand if you want to have any closing remarks of your own. Happy to give you the floor. Okay, with that, I just want to thank you so much again for being part of this discussion. We're really pleased that we were able to bring forth a discussion around the medical library. It's a very different than the normal academic environment, and I think that you guys have really brought some great insights and to this and. Thank you so much. And we're going to get the recording out to everyone. And so look for that in the next week or so in your inboxes. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much again.
And thanks everyone for having us.
Yes, thank
Thank you.